Welcome to session 2 of my career building workshop. And today we're going to talk about how to build your business on a shoestring budget. My overall objective is to help you build a solid foundation for your sales career, period. And then also to help you be able to make a decision about whether you want to stay solo or go on a team with your eyes wide open and knowing what you're looking for and knowing what you'll get. And today's session in particular is about the most effective ways to spend as little as possible and still build a scalable and profitable business. Last time I asked you guys who is missing from your business, and we discussed all the people that you could surround yourself with for free and fee for service. And then we also discussed all the different tools and ways of organizing and streamlining your business. And today we're going to touch on some of the monetary items that fall under the ones with the boxes. I'm just curious, these were the session 1 next steps that I put forth to you. So I'm curious if anybody took any action, has any wins or any questions from last time.
I've added 2 people to my contacts since last week, just starting to reach out and talk to people.
Nice. Yeah. Anytime we can just take one action step, like the one thing challenge I'm doing, it's like sometimes the thing that you need to do is just check your, in his case, is 411, which is basically his priorities, his success list. Check it first, because you increase your likelihood of acting on it. So baby steps. Anybody else have any wins, questions, or challenges from last time? Did anybody just not do anything? We can powwow about what got in the way. I actually know for a fact that 2 of you actually did take action steps because I was the missing person for them, and they joined my program, my contracts boot camp, and some others. So I'm really excited about that. And we have actually a new boot camper on this call today as well. So just as a reminder, if you're ever looking for additional support regarding the state contracts, working with clients, so basically from pre-qualification consult to pre-offer, and then the prospecting, basically spear and cold prospects up until that pre-qualification conversation. I've got those 3 boot camps going on. And you may notice Erin Whitman here. So Erin and I, she's more than just an assistant. She's my business partner. I've worked with her for 8 years now. We worked together when I was building a team 8 years ago for 2 years, and then we joined a larger team. And then just this month, I guess, we came off the team. So we're back together, going at it solo. Things are different now. Transaction coordination is pretty easy to hire out. So if you have not yet hired a transaction coordinator, that's your first step, really, honestly. For that next deal, you got to do it. With Erin's help, we're going to actually be launching a transaction mentorship program to help agents who are in the contracts bootcamp. If they actually get a deal and they want hands-on help, we're going to be able to help them. So we're really excited about that. And I'll share more about that later, but I want to get to the content for today. So what did you guys come here to learn? I'd love to hear 3 things that people came to learn. And if you can't speak up, you can put it in the chat. And hopefully it has something to do with money.
Yeah, I was about to say, since this week's theme is shoestring budget, I'm definitely starting from scratch. Kind of, I'm on a team. I have some admin experience, but this is my first time actually paying for the MLS. Actually trying to figure out which things that might generate leads are worth paying for, and which ones are just going to be like Buffini, where it's just cards keep coming and I keep paying for them. I'm looking forward to finding out, what agents have seen certain things work, whether it's a system or a class or a CRM, or, then you have something like Buffini, which might work really well for someone for a few months, but then you're getting automatic shipments of cards for the rest of your life.
Before I came to KW, I actually did Brian Buffini, and I'm thinking that's what you're talking about. And it's all about nurturing your sphere, your clients. And I think number 1, all of us agents, we absolutely need to do that in our business, as well as looking for lead sources that have more immediate needs to buy and sell. I'm excited because the most effective lead sources are pretty much practically free. I can help you save a lot of money and heartache. Number 2, who would like to share what they came here to learn?
Being able to prioritize, what's more important to spend money on to get started, and other stuff that's like a nice to have, or something that would be further along. I guess when there are so many opportunities and so many things jumping at you as a new agent, especially, what's more important to get started with, and what would be better to push off until later on.
Excellent. I can think of 2 examples where I specifically talk about that, and as we go, you'll probably figure more out about that. Who would like to share number 3, what they're looking to get out of today?
I guess the same thing with me. It's where's the best place to put my money to be the most productive, kind of, I guess, to get the most bang for your buck, especially with being a new agent, kind of having a slim budget, I have a budget, but I just want to spend it wisely,
Yeah.
basically.
It all comes down to figuring out what those touches are going to be for, let's say, your sphere. And right now, it's free essentially to see people on Zoom, and so easy to set up meeting after meeting after meeting face to face with people without going anywhere and without spending money. So we're not going to necessarily talk about your 36 touch or your 7 to cement today. A lot of what we're going to talk about will plug into that. I just think it's exciting that one of the most effective ways to communicate is pretty much you already paid for your phone, and Zoom is pretty much free. So you'll definitely get that, Roseanne. So knowing how to spend your money starts with mindset. And what I mean by that is that you need to understand that your business is all about the skills you have, the money you spend, and multiply that by time. So, I don't know if you've heard of the saying that excellence is built basically by one step at a time, or is one good habit at a time, something like that. So if you can create the habit and continue with one habit, that's why I asked you last time, what's that one personalized touch that you can build a habit around? And then you add on to that. Does anybody remember what my one habit that I had been working on for a couple of years? Note cards, happy birthdays and anniversaries. And actually, I remembered it was actually, I think it was 3 years ago that I did, it was 3 years ago that I did Jib Jab. 2 years ago that I tried to do it handwritten. Last year, I was like, I can't do 500 note cards handwritten. So that's when I went to the automatic, like type it online and they send the card. So that's the one habit that I've really nailed down. When I say mindset around money, I'm asking these questions. Ask yourself, how do I earn business? What actually sells a house? And what's the difference between an expense, an investment, and a magic pill? So number one, if you create an outline for what you're going to spend your money on for the year ahead, and somebody calls you or emails you offering that next great lead generation thing, number one, you can discern whether it's an investment, an expense, or a magic pill just by taking what we learned today and looking at it from that perspective. And number two, if you didn't already plan for it, then you can just easily say no. And then if the following year it sounded great, the prior year, and you still are interested, maybe you implement it then. Kind of like to Adam's point, when you might level up at some point to do certain things. Like for me, I signed up for Bright Social Pro immediately because it fell right in line with what I wanted to accomplish with syncing up my listings, an automated blog / newsletter with my social platforms, and I have it in the budget to do it. But a lot of things people are gonna come at you and try to get you to spend money on them. So first, you earn your business by doing the core job. So setting and going on appointments, following up on appointments, negotiating contracts, and practicing your conversations. If this is your core job and this is how you earn business, what are the most important things? Like, how does this translate to skills and money? What kind of skill do you need to set appointments? Do you just text somebody, say, hey, can we go on a listing appointment? And they say, okay.
Ask for the appointment when you're live with them, like on that first phone call, on that first interaction, like try to set something, even if you have to reschedule.
Absolutely. There is definitely a skill that is learned by doing, how to ask for the appointment multiple times in one conversation in multiple ways and not just letting go when they say no. The tool that you need is, your phone. You need phone numbers to call the people, and you need those conversational skills in order to set that appointment. Now think about going on that appointment. What kind of money might you have spent to support going on that appointment, or skills you might bring to that appointment? Do you go in there with nothing, nada?
Some expenses might be, if you did any printing to bring them flyers, or I don't think the MLS would technically be an expense because it's something you're paying for overall anyway. The gas that you're going to be driving around with, whatever parking ticket you get because you parked too close to that hydrant.
Yeah, so like if you have a brochure, a marketing flyer, or your listing guide, a buyer guide. I know Arlix has shared with me that he took to his buyer consults closing cost estimates that when those buyers saw that he did that, they said that they had never seen anybody do that before. So knowing how to bring useful and valuable information to people, that's a skill, and it's something that he brought. And then following up, having a good calendar system to remind you, and actually having the habit of doing it. And then, of course, knowing your contracts. I did write down some of the answers. The skills and the money, get in front of as many people as possible. Follow up, voice to voice and face to face. The goal is always to get voice to voice and face to face, because that's when the appointment can be set. It's very rare. You don't have a full understanding via text, right? And direct message. I mean, how many arguments have people gotten into because they didn't understand? Or there's a question you need answered, and like they disappear, they ghost the text, they got distracted. And then following up, that's a skill. It's a habit. It requires discipline for an amount of time before it becomes a habit that you can just make sure that you do every day. And then also presenting as a polished professional, having written collateral. My written collateral is not very pretty because I have a clear direction for my consultations, and I speak with an authoritative tone. They know that I'm going to take care of them, and I know how to do my job. And I ask great questions to dig for motivation and let them tell about themselves. So when you are just starting out, you may not have that confidence. So having really good collateral might actually be the thing that helps boost your confidence, and knowing how to walk people through that, not just having it written, but also having practiced it with whomever gave it to you, or if you got it, like for my program, like, I've modified the one from Ignite to be something that I would actually use. Your conversation skills, making it all about them. They say they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And there's nothing that's more of a turnoff than somebody who's all about themselves as an agent and just bragging about themselves. And then on the contrary, somebody who's unsure of themselves. Like, it's like, dogs can smell fear in their owners. We transfer our anxiety to the buyers that we meet and the sellers that we meet. So the more we can come prepared with our conversational skills and good collateral that we know how to walk through, the better your consultations will be. And sometimes professional photography. So recently, I don't know if anybody has noticed that there's very low inventory out there. Anybody notice that? Where there might be, I just have a new listing, and I think we already have 24 showings since Wednesday through Saturday or Sunday. And I know Josh just got something under contract where he had at least a dozen showings in the first 2 days. Sometimes in order to get the listing, you might choose to actually pay for something that you don't think sells the house, and quite honestly probably does not sell the house, but is so shiny, like the seller wants it, like a Matterport or an extra video, a well-priced house. And I actually literally had a little bit of a disagreement with a seller. I chose a picture that was of the backyard because I was emphasizing the backyard in the ad copy, and she hated the picture. And it didn't occur to me until after she said that I was like, oh, I can kind of see why she doesn't like it, but I know what buyers want, and I know that there's nothing available. So they're not gonna not come because of a picture that's not great. That is all to say that there's certain things that sell a house, and sometimes we will pay for things that don't help to sell the house, but help us get that seller, and or then help us get the next seller because they were impressed with what we did for the prior seller. And that's another example. I was competing last fall for a listing, and I didn't get it because I had a conveyance fee, which they never gave me the opportunity to say, okay, I'll eat it, I'll waive it, and they went with somebody else. And then it expired. I called them back a couple weeks ago, and they said, we're so glad you called back because we were going to call you. We just didn't feel like our agent was really doing anything. So that's what I hear over and over again, that people don't feel like their agents are doing anything until they're about to lose the listing. So I decided the other week, when I realized how inexpensive my new photographer is for Matterport, and we'll get to what that is, and photos, I was like, I'm just going to do it for all my listings now. I literally went on a second appointment this week. They're interviewing 5 agents. It's very competitive out there. So do what you got to do to get the business. Which do you think is the most important, in my opinion, of all of these things to earn the business once you're in front of people?
I'm gonna guess it's the questions to dig deeper because you're gonna find out what the other agents miss.
Exactly. Because it's all about that rapport that you have with them. Companies don't sell houses, we sell houses. We help advise the seller. Now, what sells a house? 95% of all well-priced homes listed in the multiple service listing service with at least one picture will sell. I got that from my master contracts, negotiations expert class. How does this translate? If this is what sells houses, how does this translate into skills and money to sell a house? There are 4 answers embedded in this statement. One is kind of sneaky.
I would say one would be just having that exposure and knowledge of the market to know what a well-priced home is.
Yeah, so number 1, know how to price homes. What's another thing that's a requirement in order for the 95% of those well-priced homes to sell?
Get pictures that are decent.
At least one picture. It's not even 2 pictures, it's just one picture. It might take longer, people might not go out and see it. And what's something that's staring right in the middle that's telling you, what do you got to do? What do you got to do with that listing to get it to sell?
Market it,
Where do you market it?
the MLS.
Yes, put in the MLS. Now there's one step in here that is kind of embedded within this. Who decides the price that you list a property at? Is it one party that decides it?
Well, the owner decides it, but the market dictates what it should be.
Yeah, exactly. So if you as the agent know how to price homes and you know how to talk to them about pricing it correctly, then they will likely choose the right price to list it at. So in addition to knowing how to price homes, you also need to know how to talk to sellers about pricing the home correctly. So that's the 4th kind of embedded assumption in this, how to translate this into skills and money. And again, sometimes you might pay for marketing that really just wows the seller and makes them feel like you're doing everything possible. And also sometimes the additional marketing, like I did my first Matterport, which is like a dollhouse 3D rendering of the property. I actually did it to reduce the number of showings because it was an elderly woman and she wanted fewer people in the home. And we felt like the more you can get people familiar with the home, they can eliminate it before even coming to see it. So an expense is a cost or charge. It's required to run your business. It's neutral. An investment is meant for gain, profitable returns as interest, income, or appreciation in value. And I define a magic pill. It gives you the illusion of being able to save time or get to yes more quickly than by using that service that you're buying. So examples of expenses in your business would be bright MLS, like somebody pointed out. I think, Jess, we already have to pay for it. Realtor dues, your phone, internet, car, transportation, office tech fee. So we want to max out on what we already use as far as expenses go. And they're like I said, they're neutral. You can't get away from paying your dues or paying for bright. An investment, just further defined, gives you leverage. It will save you time, enhances your skill, increases your efficiency. So let's say you were to pay to go to family reunion, which for people who are not necessarily part of KW on the call, I apologize, it's our annual conference. So if you were to spend money on that, where would you categorize that? Expense, investment, or magic pill?
Investment.
Yep, that one, right?
What she said.
Yeah. So no, you can never take away the education you have gained. So education and training and conferences that are meant to enhance your knowledge, your learning, and your skills is always an investment. And sometimes, I don't know about you, but I had some loans when I went to school, and I'm willing to bet a lot of people had loans when they went to school. You decided to go into debt because the opportunity to learn and earn more was so much greater. So you want to think of an investment like that. If by investing, I was having a conversation with somebody about whether or not they would hire a MAPS coach, which happens to be $1,000 a month. So that's $12,000 a year. You would expect if you're going to put that on your credit card, let's say, if you had to do it, you would expect that by being in that coaching program and doing the habits that they're going to help you build, that you're going to yield 5 to 6 times the amount invested, right? So That's what we do when we take out loans to go to school or college. Or, I always like to give the example of Wharton. People pay a lot of money to go to Wharton, and you can actually earn more in your first year in real estate and not go into all that debt. And it actually is cheaper to get into real estate than to open a hot dog stand. I once did the research, as crazy as that sounds. Not because I was looking for a career change, just because I wanted to look at an example of a cheap business to start, and there's practically nothing cheaper than real estate. And then lastly, the return, you want to see 5 to 6 times the cost at least. One year I analyzed, my networking group, my Zillow leads, and my Sphere. And what I returned on my Sphere was astronomical. It was like 10 digits versus 100%. It was like a trillion% return on investment, because just keeping in touch with people will be a far bigger yield than, paying thousands of dollars to convert cold leads. So I dropped Zillow that year. I even dropped my networking group because I had outgrown it at that point. So knowing how much you're spending on each deal and where each deal came from at the end of the year can help you every year figure out, should I keep investing my money in this way? Examples of investments for your business would be your desk fee only if you're more productive in the office. Your signs, a professional photographer, personalized signs, a dialer and a headset, company branded note cards and folders, social media and other digital advertising, phone numbers for sale by owners, expireds, and neighbors. So to me, all of these are investments because they're going to either give you leverage, enhance your, let's see if any of these enhance your skills. Not necessarily enhance your skills, but the more you call for sale by owners, expireds, and neighbors, you're going to do a better job. And they give you leverage, like a dialer gives you leverage and speeds up your time. The magic pill, again, it gives you the illusion that you're saving time or getting to the yes more quickly by using the service that you're buying. So you want to ask yourself, does this tool require me to have as many skills as a free or inexpensive lead source to convert leads would? So if you go to an open house, is there a skill in talking to people and getting them to set an appointment with you? Yes, there is a skill to that, absolutely. Calling a for sale by owner expired, is there a skill associated with having good conversations and getting them to, see you, list with you? The answer is yes. Is there a skill involved in converting Zillow leads or internet leads as a generic form? But yeah, so both of those things take skill. What would cause you to spend thousands of dollars on a lead source that is going to take as many skills as something else that is free or inexpensive? And statistically, it used to be that internet leads were great because the internet was new. Now, all these buyers online, they're trying to stay anonymous. Statistics show that online buyers are using the internet, for weeks ahead of being ready and meeting with an agent. So they're in their preliminary research phase. They are avoiding you like the plague. So they sign up on 10 websites because they want the information. 10 different agents are bombarding them. So no wonder the conversion is like 2%. I can attest to you, it is so frustrating working with internet leads, and the conversion is so low and it can be so expensive. And then if you get a rep calling you about the service, ask them, what's the conversion rate of the leads? They're going to be very wishy-washy and dodge that question because they know it's all about the habits that you have around converting those leads and the skills you've developed around converting those leads. So if they give you a statistic, who are they basing it off of? The small percentage of agents who are actually doing a good job, or is it the average of most everybody and it's going to not look good and then you're not going to want to invest because it's not an investment? And then you can ask them how many agents renew after their contract is up. If suddenly we have a new opening in your zip code for Zillow, it's like, what caused somebody to not renew? You want to ask those questions. So I already alluded to a comparison, paid lead sources versus inexpensive lead sources. The cost is going to be a lot for the paid, whereas it's going to be a lot lower for the inexpensive. The skills and time is pretty much the same. So you might as well don't spend the money. The conversion ratio is abysmal, when you're talking about paid lead sources. And for inexpensive lead sources, if you think about it, if people move on average of every 10 years, statistically, 1 in 10 people you talk to is going to move that year. So if you talk to the right number of people who have already raised their hand and said, I'm interested to sell, then you're going to increase your 10% might be actually 50%. Who on this list of leads would be an example of somebody who's raised their hand and says, I want to sell, or I've had interest to sell?
Would that be FSBOs and expireds?
Absolutely. Yep. A for sale by owner that right now they're saying, I want to sell right now, or I'm testing the market. And a lot of times for sale by owners will list with an agent. They might just want to see if they can do it on their own first, and then they might get overwhelmed anyway and call an agent. So definitely they're a good lead source. And expireds, at one point they said, I did want to sell my house, something prevented them. Usually it was the price. So you could call somebody from 3 years ago and see if they want to sell now, because the price is probably where they want it to be. You know, one thing I've been doing for my buyer clients, this might be a good tip for you, is I've been using their active search in the multiple listing service and switching the active and coming soon to expireds for the last 3 years. And then I'll send them the list and I'll say, heart what you like here. And I will reach out to these agents to see, you know, or you can reach out directly to the owners, because there's no listing contract anymore. You can reach out to the owners. You'd have to pay for their phone numbers, you know, through one of the sources, or write letters or door knock. But you can always, the easiest way is to call the agent, say, hey, you know, my client, I saw 123 Main Street, expired 2 years ago. Does it, you know, does the owner still want to sell because it fits the criteria of my client? And that might actually give you an opportunity for an off-market property, especially in this time when there are not very many opportunities, you know, for buyers. And also another example that, you know, you can use when you talk to, you know, let's say you were to go directly to those expireds, you can tell them this story that we had a colleague that listed a house in the fall for $875, expired from the market. They relisted it just this last week at $850, immediately got an offer, and then got a second offer, and the second offer is $875. So there was like no market for it last year. Now there's a market for it. So markets change quickly, and you know, I'm routinely seeing, you know, 11 times as many buyers as there are sellers on the market when I run my market statistics analysis for, you know, my sellers. So definitely use that tip. And it makes you look like the hero, because even if it doesn't pan out, you've done something different and beyond. And it actually has worked for me before. So the bottom line is that your paid versus expensive leads, the only thing is money. Both require conversation skills and time. So who still wants to pay for leads in the traditional Boomtown or Zillow sense? Anybody? Not me. Great. Because if anybody said yes, we were going to have a private chat later. So spending your money wisely starts with a plan. So I want to give you an example. I'm thinking that most people don't get into real estate to earn $36,000. I'm willing to bet most people want to earn 6 figures. So let's just talk about what it would cost to do 24 closings in a year, what it would cost to support those listings, to support those closings, and money spent to do certain activities. That way, if you're like, I haven't even closed 4 deals, well, some of these expenses are not going to apply to you yet because you don't have as many closings to pay for closing gifts. Maybe you haven't had your first listing, so you won't have paid for your signs yet. So in this example, we have 24 closings. You started with 15 listings, and let's say 12 sell. Chances in this market, if you price it right, it will sell, but we're going to assume some fallout, and that you have 12 closed buyers. Average price of $250, which in our market area is higher, but you know, I tend to work in less expensive neighborhoods. So it's funny because my buyer price point is like twice as high as my seller price point. So I'm just using $250 because it's a nice round number. Average commission, let's say 2.75. So that's grossing $164, and under the KW model, that would be $25,000 and $3,000 for royalty and cap, and your net commission will be $137 after cap and royalty are paid. And then if you charge a $495 conveyance fee, that will cover a transaction coordinator, and if you're a solo agent, possibly some of the marketing concierge. So I'm looking at the transaction coordinator as a net neutral if you learn how to have your client pay for that. What about Instagram? What do you mean? What about Instagram? Josh in the chat. Oh, paid advertising on Instagram. There's plenty of things that we can do for free that we haven't maxed out yet on. And I would say that if, let's say you charge $495 and $375 goes to a transaction coordinator, you've got $125 to play with. Maybe you use it for the pictures. I would, if you're cash poor, use it for the pictures. And then on top of that, you know, maybe some paid advertising. Okay, so build a sign. You can order 5 open house signs for $227, and it's a one-time investment. And this includes the glossy coating. Anything you can do to make the sign last longer would be better to do. Oh yes, I was talking with Jess, and she said, I'm excited to get working with open houses. And a lot of people have built great businesses on working with open houses, converting buyers there. And then as your business grows and shifts, and you've worked with more buyers, starting in about year 5, suddenly your buyers turn into sellers. And it's great because your client mix starts to change from people you met randomly to prior clients, and it shifts maybe from buyer heavy to seller heavy, or at least mixed. And of course, with those open house signs, you'll need to have frames. So you want to make sure you order frames. And I apologize, if you're not from KW, I'm sure your office has a promo code that you could use. redstore.com is where you could get a ton of promotional branded items for KW people. So, business cards. Erin and I were saying, like, do I even need business cards? Like, I don't even know. So, but if you're going to be out in the public, maybe you want to have a business card. But certainly, I don't think you'll need more than 250 in a year. The most important contact information to exchange is to get theirs. So if you never got business cards, I don't think you're missing out as long as you practice getting their contact information. So that's $50 plus shipping and handling. They're recommending using FedEx. So in my assumptions, I'm assuming like $10 for shipping when maybe it's cheaper. All right, folders. So you can get black, you can get red, you can get white. I do not recommend the black ones because they're glossy and you can see fingerprints. I've never seen the red ones, but I do like the white ones. So I would suggest get 2 packs right away. That way you have 100 if you're not on a team. Obviously, if you're on a team, use your team folders. But just have the goal, set 2 appointments a week, a buyer, a seller, or 2 buyers, doesn't matter. But you wouldn't need more than 2 packs for the whole year, most likely. Stationery. So anybody here doing Ignite?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Do you remember how many note cards per week or day Ignite recommends?
10.
10 per
Was
what?
10, was it 10 per day?
Yes.
Adam, were you? It is 10 per day, right? Yeah.
Yep.
I remember.
10 notes, 10 contacts, like talking to people, and 10 adding to your database. If you know me, I personally prefer to get your database all together. That way you can go fast when you want to make contacts, and you can set into motion all of your automated drips while you then call everybody. Do what works for you. So I'm just saying, at minimum, do 10 cards a week. You can write thank you notes like, thank you for meeting me to talk about buying. Thank you for meeting me to talk about selling. I routinely send thank you cards as a part of my buyer and seller process. You could send thank you notes, gratitude notes, like just thinking about you notes, happy birthday. You don't even need a birthday card. You could just use this. And it's $90 for 100 envelopes and note cards. Be careful if you order this, though. It's $60 for 100 envelopes and $15 for 50 note cards. So you need to order 2 note card packs for $30 and 1 envelope for $60. Who can tell me what makes a dialer so good for your business? Who can tell me what a dialer is?
Doesn't it help you get like phone numbers and call multiple people at once or something like that?
Yeah, so there's 2 parts. So Josh also included a software that calls homeowners. So there's 2 parts. So dialers sometimes also sell phone numbers to people in certain areas or to expireds or for sale by owners. So the dialer component, you basically upload a list. So let's say you have 300 people in your sphere and are clients. So you upload that list to your dialer, and then you call into their number. Mojo happens to be New Hampshire. So you call into it, you put your phone to the side, and now you have both hands free, and you're sitting, you're seeing the name, you're seeing the thing at the top that says like it's ringing. It's silent, so it's not like annoying, and you're just waiting for them to answer. And as soon as they answer, whatever it is you had planned to talk about that day with that person, you talk about. You can even actually upload a script if you have a script, or if it's, you're doing your plan B call where you're asking them if they have an agent. If not, if they do, can I be your plan B, or some other reason, then you can just have the script in front of you or just sitting to the side of you. And then you can set a next time to give them a call. So I keep track of all my conversations with people in my dialer. Command does some automated things for me. My dialer is where I interact with it personally and keep those notes. So mojosells.com does have a dialer for $99 a month. You do not need a triple line dialer, I would say. Number one, so for Sphere and nurture calls, I want a chance to look at my notes before it starts ringing and before they pick up. So I might need a second. So I'll use what they call, I think, the nurture, where it's basically start and stop. It's manual. If you're calling through a neighborhood that you have 1,000 phone numbers you've uploaded, you don't care who picks up. Like you had no prior relationship with them. You're going to say the same thing no matter who answers the phone. So you might use a triple dialer. I would just say until you know that you're going to use your dialer, don't buy the triple dialer, because you can just wait and set it to ring 3 times, not 6 times, so that you save time. So just start out with a single dialer. And then if you do a lot of cold calling with lists of thousands, then maybe you uploaded the triple dialer. And what that's doing is basically calling 3 numbers at once, and whoever picks up first, you'll talk to them, and it hangs up for the other people. And it might leave an automated message for you that you left for the system to leave for that person. And another thing is this reduces hesitation. So if you have a list of people who are like, oh, I haven't talked to her since college, I haven't talked to him since his wedding, like it feels awkward, it just eliminates some of that internal chatter. Now, if you want to buy numbers, Mojo does sell numbers. Now I'm going to show you 4 resources where you can buy numbers for various sources. So, and then I would just say, ask other agents who they're using, because a lot of complaints across these sources is that it wasn't the right number. My theory is if somebody's breathing, they need a house. So wherever they live, I can refer them to an agent there. If they're not the particular person that I wanted to talk to. But yeah, so if you're concerned about accuracy, which for sale by owners and expireds, you'd be more concerned about accuracy, then you just want to ask around and figure out what works for your budget. So $49 to do a neighborhood search for rent by owner. I used to do, I still do some landlord rentals because I want to list it in the future if they want to sell. So I want to be available like in that relationship, service them now, even though I don't love, listing properties for rent. Expired data, $50, for sale by owners, $25. And I honestly don't know what Skip Tracer is. But anybody who's doing open houses, I would start with the neighborhood search. There's nothing easier to do than call around in the neighborhood and say, hey, I'm hosting an open house. There are better scripts than saying that, but that is an easy conversation to have. If you're really gung-ho about going after for sale by owners and expireds, then by all means, get both of these. And you may end up liking one over the other. Like I definitely prefer to talk to expireds because they already hired an agent at one point. Something just happened and their house didn't sell. Whereas for sale by owners usually just think they can do it on their own, or they had a bad experience with an agent, or they think we get paid too much. So I prefer expireds. Another source that's great for phone numbers is Cole Realty Resource. So I had Cole at one point, and what I did was I just started downloading numbers. And then once I had all the numbers I wanted for specific neighborhoods, I stopped subscribing. So 2,000 is a lot of numbers. Not everybody's going to pick up for certain. But let's say you have a neighborhood, you figure out, well, how many houses are in this neighborhood? All right, there's 10,000 houses in this neighborhood. Well, maybe it takes 5 months to download them all. Or if you're committed, do the annual program. Landvoice is another service. And again, you just have to see what they're offering and what reviews say about their accuracy. Vulcan 7 is a dialer plus phone numbers. Just like Mojo also has phone numbers, Vulcan 7 is known to be a high quality dialer and phone number source. So that is why that even if you add up all of the other leads, the phone numbers from the other services, it's still going to be less expensive than Vulcan. But if you're like, I want top quality, I don't want to have to go from Mojo to Vulcan later, I'm going to commit to this, well, then this might be the way to go for you. Before I get there, any questions? I just want to take a pause because I've been doing a lot of talking and I'd like to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts so far? What are you going to use? What's your next step?
I was concentrating on right now I'm kind of working with buyers, but eventually I would like to start concentrating on getting more listings in a particular neighborhood in the Northeast. So for me, the dialer would probably be a good option. And I knew about it, but I didn't know as much as detail as you provided about it. So it was pretty helpful.
Yeah. I mean, if it's the one monthly subscription, like aside from everything else that we have to do, the dialer would be that one thing. Even though we may have a CRM from our own companies, none of them, I believe, do the dialing. And I don't even use it for cold sources. I use it to nurture my sphere, my clients, my past sphere. So it's not even just for cold lead sources. So no matter who you're prospecting, your list is going to get large enough such that it makes sense.
Hey, so you're saying you never use Mojo for cold calling at all, or?
I just don't do cold calling. I have done it and I have
Okay.
used it for that. Yeah.
All right.
'Cause-
And also in Mojo, are you able to download, like I paid an extra $50 a month, for the phone numbers in a specific neighborhood where you can like draw the circle around the neighborhood. Like, do you know if you can download that as well, like you can in Cold Realty Resource, or is it not downloadable?
Oh, interesting. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I feel like the Mojo numbers they only provided them after I had been using Cole Realty Resource. Yeah, I think it's a newer feature
I
than
got you.
yeah. So that could be why it's cheaper if they don't allow you to download it. But with Mojo, you can export any of your contacts.
Maybe I can. I just need to look into it. Okay.
So I have a friend who's a realtor who actually is on the board of this nonprofit called hostforhospitals.org or Host for Hospitals. They're kind of like a Ronald McDonald House in that they provide free or really inexpensive lodging to people coming to this region to, in this case, their specific needs are women who are giving birth at CHOP and recipients of outpatient radiation for cancer. So what they need are, well, they're doing a fundraiser on Facebook right now. But if you know of anybody who has like an extra bedroom and you're okay opening your house at this point for people to stay there, like that's what this program does. And, sometimes we don't have money to give, but we do have an extra room. And just knowing that you're providing a much more homey space for somebody going through a really hard time, that could be something that you call about. When we've got plenty of things that I tell you you can call your clients and sphere about when you start with my programs. But if you're looking for something new, that's what you can use. So I mentioned Bright Social Pro. I saw this advertisement, and you can look at Bright Premium under Premium Products, Social Pro. It automatically puts your listings on your social media channels, and it actually creates, I forgot that it did this until I looked. It does like a little video tour. Like it puts your pictures like a video to music. And it publishes blog articles. So I use Bright Social Pro, and I don't know if it's worth it, but I know that it's a point of leverage where my listings get promoted automatically. It's one piece of published content every week that I don't have to think about. It costs $79.95. I think I did sign up for the Social Sphere bundle. I'm not 100% sure if that was worth it. But then I just wanted to see, I was like, yeah, they said that they were going to post it to my Facebook page, my new listing. So this is the picture my client didn't like, but I was like, it's showing the outdoors and I don't know, look, I liked it. And then I clicked on it. I wonder if this is, the link is no longer live, but it basically put the pictures to music on YouTube. So Center City signs. If you're on a team, obviously you can use your team signs. If you get a listing and suddenly you need a sign and you don't have one, usually each company has some generic signs that you can borrow for your listing. But as soon as you know you're going to get a listing, I'll show you where, the pricing in terms of ordering your own listing signs. But a listing sign installation and removal is $60. So remember, in our example, we were going to assume that you had 15 listings in the year and 12 sell. Now, lockbox rental is only available with the sign itself. You can buy lock boxes for $25, but if you had, let's say you bought 3 lock boxes, you could only have 3 listings up at a time. So, and sometimes these lock boxes are really hard to track. I cannot even tell you how many lock boxes in my life I've owned and then lose them. So I kind of do a combination. Like I have a listing coming out in the suburbs. I don't want to drive out there for a lockbox. So I'm going to have the sign company put that on for me. Also, open house sign placement. We recommend 5 signs when you do open houses, at least. Can anybody tell me, what's the reasoning behind 5 rather than just like 1 out front? Or even 3?
Get more exposure.
Yeah, so this is marketing. This is you in the neighborhood. If it takes you an hour to print the paper for the sign that says the time and the address, to put it on there, and if you're like me and you don't like getting sweaty before open houses and it's frustrating to carry these heavy signs, like I would rather pay somebody $50 they put it out at least an hour before your open house, and it might be there for hours beyond your open house. So rather than it being there for a very short period of time and me getting sweaty and me having to put the paper on it, I could A, sleep in. I could B, maybe I'm doing other things, or C, maybe I'm door knocking. And if, let's say, you did 40 open houses, how much would that be in terms of $50 for 5 signs for 40 open houses?
2,000.
$2,000. So if your average commission is, let's say, $7,000, and let's say by investing an extra hour a week by not doing the sign install, and that's 40 hours extra that you could work over a year, that's like one additional work week. Could you not get one additional deal out of that and then earn, multiples of what you invested? To Adam's point earlier, if you're like, my time is worth nothing right now, like all I have is my time, so I'm just going to put it out, I have no money in the bank. Sure, don't spend the money on having Center City place your open house signs, but there's going to be a point where you're going to have to choose, like, do I spend my Sunday morning with my family and then go to my open, house? Or do I door knock before my open house and then go to the open house? Or am I going to deal with the sign placement and picking it up? And then if you have the money to spend, I think it's a good investment. Photography. So Alcove is one of the photographers I use. So let's say you do photographs and a video tour, or maybe photographs and Matterport. In my assumption, I'm going to use $220 for total because Jeff Moon does both for $200. And so let's say you had him do the Matterport and him do the photography. Like, you're not going to do that, but I'm just using a combination of the cheaper options in my estimate. Closing gifts. Who knows what the benefit of using something like a Cutco closing gift would be over to a basket of fruit, chocolates, cheese, sausage, wine.
They'll remember you each time they use it.
Exactly. So it's going to be in their house. It's not consumed. It lasts, and it's quality. So, so it definitely impresses them. And number 2, it's tax deductible. If you give, a gift that's consumable, it's not, maybe, I think it's like $25, maybe. You'll have to check with your CPA. But last time I checked, 100% of marketing is tax deductible. You can use it as a business expense. And since it has your marketing on it, if you do go to Lindsay, tell her I sent you and tell her I say hi. So we talked about conveyancing, that everybody really should be working with a conveyancer. It's like business insurance to help you along the way and is good leverage. So again, have your clients pay for that. And if you charge extra than what it costs, and you maybe can cover some of your marketing costs, and you can then pay for additional social media. The marketing concierge. So this is to Adam's question earlier. So there are certain items and resources that you have at your disposal that are free. I would just say, see what you can use for free first. And then as you save 10% of every deal that you do, you can up level, your marketing, because you'll have to learn the skills anyway. So you're going to be working on those skills plus ugly guides like mine. It works just fine, so you don't want to hide behind good marketing, because good marketing is not going to cover up a bad agent. And as long as what you give has good content and it's backed by good questions and good conversation skills, then it's going to be fine. But certainly you can level up. And again, some of you love social media. I do not. I want to leverage it as much as possible. So if you're naturally somebody who easily gets friends and engages people online, well, that's not the first thing you want to leverage. That's something that you're already doing pretty well. So there's 2 budgets that I have prepared. One is a recommended fixed budget. So basically things that you'll pay for over the, you'll have supplies for the year, or it's on a monthly basis, and then you add it up for the year and you divide by 12. So those open house directional signs ultimately cost you $34 a month. Those business cards will cost you $5 a month. Those business folders will cost you just over $11 a month. Your branded note cards, just over $45 a month. The dialer and phone numbers, probably just under $200, or you could go all the way up to $350. And then Bright Social Pro, if you added that on, $80 a month. So that's a total of $364 an annual cost for these fixed line items. Now this is per closing or per listing. So you'll only order your listing signs when you know your listing you're going to get a listing. And it's a bit less than a week turnaround time. I literally just ordered 5 signs and it's $286 shipped. So annualized, that's $24. Listing sign placement, if you had 15 listings, that's $900 for the year or $75 a month. Listing photos, if you had 15 for the year and you paid $95, you're going to pay $128 a month. If you did a listing video or Matterport, we'll just call it $125 times 15 listings. That's over $2,000 a year, but about $169 a month. If you did lockbox rental, it'll cost you about $202 for the year. Or if you buy 5 and then swap them out and keep good track of them, it'll cost you less. But just remember, for where you're going to drive 20 minutes to put the lockbox on, it would probably be better to have the sign company put it on. But still, $11 to $17 a month for either which way. Cutco gifts, 75 times 24 closings, that's $1,800. That's $150 a month. The nice thing about Cutco is, like, let's say you order 10, they divide your payment over 5 months, so you don't have to pay it all up front, and it's not like it's accruing interest as if it were on a credit card. So essentially, we have the annual net commission of $137, the fixed budget per month, and the per listing or closing budget per month is actually just over $11,000 for the year, which is just under $1,000 a month, which is 8% of what you earned, which is phenomenal. So you're earning $11,400 in this scenario, and you're spending less than $1,000 of it to support your business. Does that feel like a lot coming into a business that kind of makes you think that it's pretty easy and glamorous and all you gotta do is just show up and look good? You'll get business? Does this add clarity?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely adds some clarity in there. And I think doing a per month basis for some of those things, that even though it's, like a once a year type of expense, it definitely, you're comparing apples to apples instead of just like seeing everything flash in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, per listing, this is why, usually people start with buyers, because buyers don't really know the work that goes into being an agent and good representation. And there's like no consequence to not having a good agent. Like, they could just ghost you. Even if you have a contract, they could ghost you and easily buy with somebody else. A listing agent actually invests money. You invest time with a buyer. A listing agent actually invests money into each listing. So you can add up these monthly costs. I didn't do it before, but that's one. Yeah, I mean, it's probably about like $300 or more per listing. But when you think about a $7,000 commission versus $300 spent on it, it's really so small. Yeah, so this is the point when you take a good, long, hard look at this and say, what do I need to do? For you, do you need to get into writing those note cards? Or do you need to get a dialer so that you can, have your database when it's ready and organized and you upload it? Or, invest in the leads, or the dialer and the phone number. When you invest in that, is that the thing that you need to do? Or are you going to get into open houses and order the signs? Where do you need to level up maybe on your listings? Because sometimes the thing, like I said earlier, I didn't get the listing because I had a conveyance fee, but I didn't have an opportunity to like do anything about that. But now I'm just going to go in proactively and be like, yeah, you're going to get a Matterport and photos. I even offered this lady to have my cleaning lady go in and clean after she was done, rather than reduce my commission. I was like, hey, why don't I add this convenience feature for you? So it's like, what are you going to do to get the business besides learning your skills? So I'll be quiet. You take a moment. Think, what is it for you that you need to do next?
I loved how you broke down all the costs. It definitely, I feel like it makes it all seem more reasonable when you break it down in the way that you broke it down. I am going to start doing open houses, so I like 5 signs for $50. I definitely am going to probably utilize that. And then I guess the dialer would probably be my next. After I kind of get the open houses up and running, I liked how you broke down the dialers, because I didn't really know a whole lot about it, right?
Yeah.
So it seems a lot more reasonable, I feel like, than what I thought.
Yeah, and I would recommend get your database into, if you haven't even uploaded it into your company CRM yet, get it ready in a spreadsheet where you have as many numbers from all the sources as possible and as much content in there, like the address, the birthdays, the phone numbers, the emails. Did I say home address? I think I did. That way you can just upload it to the dialer, because there's no point in adding 10 people at a time to a dialer. You would just better be off punching the number on your phone. So who else has something that just jumped out at them as something to add to level up their business?
For me personally, I like the way that you broke down everything because for me, I really didn't have a plan or as far as keeping track of finances, what I was spending versus what I actually anticipated on making this year. So that was pretty helpful as far as, taking the number and looking at all the expenses and kind of dividing it up like that. So that was pretty helpful for me.
Yeah, excellent. And I didn't even mention, I mentioned earlier that we've got access to Zoom, like the free memberships that you could do face-to-face interactions, but you've got free email newsletters available to you using Bright MLS sales data, sending that monthly for, let's say you have a client with 3 bedrooms in a neighborhood, you send them all the 3 bedrooms that were active, pending, and sold for the last 30 days. Send that once a month. Homekeeper, your vendor database, that has that monthly blog newsletter as well. And then in Command with KW, the neighborhood nurture, that's free as well. So you're writing to people here, you're calling people, you're interacting with them on social media, you're interacting with them via email. If you use the Zoom, you're seeing them. If you have closings, you're giving them gifts. So this is really the basis for a very well-rounded plan, to reach out to people throughout the year. And they, of course, cross purposes in terms of meeting new people as well. So let's get one more person to disclose what jumped out at them as something that they know they want to do to level up.
I'm not sure how much of a level up it is, but I didn't know that Center City Signs, you could also rent a lockbox through them, and I know that's going to be helpful with when I get my first rental or two, even if it's a not rental, a listing or two, even if it's a rental, knowing that if it's in a weird part of town or if it's a far drive, instead of like getting the lockbox and going out there, now my only one is over there. Suddenly I
Right.
can just for $13, and
Yeah.
my team's using them anyway, so that's just a tack on.
Awesome. Yeah, so just as a reminder, the boot camps that I run are 8 or 15 weeks, and you have content for 16 weeks and weekly live webinar workshops, kind of like this, and they're recorded and given back to you so that you can watch them again if you needed to. And all the content's available 24/7, so you do it on your own time. Less than $100 a month gets you everything for 12 months. And you have my contact information. And then as far as what I was rolling out with the transaction mentorship, I had a funny conversation the other day with somebody. He's like, "You should charge for this." I'm like, "Guess what? I'm going to." And it wasn't you, Josh. It was the last person. But basically, the thought is, in conversations with agents who are in the boot camps, is like, I've talked about mentors, training, and coaches. The mentor shows you how to do it. The trainer shows you all the ways it could be done, and the coach prods you to go and do it. Whatever it is that you need to do. And my program is very much hands off until that weekly webinar or our WhatsApp group if you have intermediary questions. And then I thought a lot of times I've heard people, they kind of freak out when they get their first offer to put together. And they might want that hands on, like, help me implement what you taught me. Because right now my adrenaline is so high and I don't want to make a mistake. So I was like, between me and Erin, now that we're, partnered again, we can help you from basically getting one transaction or 2 or 3, whatever you want, whichever you want. Get all your paperwork together. I'll help you negotiate the offer. I'll even record my explanation of it. That way, when you go to your client, you'll know how to explain it. Help you with inspection negotiations and paperwork. Give you a timeline for your transaction. Even if you're working with a conveyancer, which I think you should, just having that timeline in front of you might be just helpful. Making sure your paperwork's compliance ready, and then helping you review your CD, your closing disclosure, and ALTA before closing. And if you know me, I don't care about percentages. I just want to get paid what I'm worth. So you just pay me a flat fee, $497 for buyers, $397 for sellers, and we're good to go. So that's our new product that I'm very excited about. So you know how to reach me if you have any interest. And again, if you do call Lindsay or go to AM Cards, that was from last time, or Mojo Sells, those are the only ones that actually give me a little incentive to share their information, but I don't share anything that I don't love. And this is the bit.ly. Let me share that link with you in the chat again, so that way you have it. And then I'll I'll post the video once it's ready to distribute. And then in 2 weeks, we have our session about joining a team, not joining a team, what to look for, what to ask so that you make a good decision. So, I love to round out a session with any ahas. So I'd love to hear, at least 3 ahas, something that you're going to take away from this and take action on.
Breaking down the year in expenses was actually, like people were saying, it was eye-opening for me too, in a very positive way. Like I've already gotten my QuickBooks in order and a few other things, and I think I'm gonna be taking your numbers and helping me figure out what my expenses are, because right now I'm just like, my licensing. Okay,
Yeah.
what's next?
Yeah.
So it's going to be very helpful over the weekend, getting my business plan a bit more in order for the year.
Yeah. And I have a confession in that I don't pay enough attention to my budget and my spending sometimes, such that it wasn't until Erin came on board with me and, with Bright MLS that I realized I've been paying $11 for something for the past 3 years or 6 years every month that I don't think I've used in 6 years since I joined the team I joined. And so I was like, okay, that was like almost $700 that I spent over the last 6 years. So it's a really good idea to watch your expenses, look at it every year, ask, what am I spending my money on? And especially at the end of the year when you start doing deals, look at your lead sources and say, where did I get that? So I'm going to spend more money, more time in that area, than the ones that maybe were the random things.
Yeah, I haven't done any deals yet, so I'm in that like zone where I'm like, okay, well, I don't really have the funds in there to spend on some of these things, but some of the smaller, less expensive ways to leverage at least a little bit, like the sign placement and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's definitely a way to get started with a lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, if we were to go back to the budget, the first thing I would do is, just make calls from your phone. Don't necessarily get the dialer yet, but tell people that you're going to share your neighborhood nurture, or you can share your the Bright MLS search data monthly. Get some free content in their hands. Make a call from your phone without the dialer. That's free essentially. You already pay for your phone, and then leverage the free tools. Then I would say, if you're going to do open houses, get those signs right away, because you get your lovely mugshot on there. People are going to be like, oh, I want to work with Adam. He looks like a cool guy. But then the note cards, get in the habit, because people are touched when they get mail. People get tons of voicemail, tons of email, but people don't get personal mail anymore unless they know me. And then they get that at least twice a year, if not more. But I can't even tell you the feedback that I get from people that I might not have heard from them. Like this, I got a return card, and it was the mom is like, hey, he doesn't live here anymore. Why don't you take him off your list? And I had the guy's email. So I reached out. I was like, hey, it seemed like your mom didn't want me to have your address, but I'd like to send you this birthday card because it came back. And he's like, that is so sweet of you. I've been so impressed with your marketing, blah, blah, blah. You keep in touch if I ever have a referral. So you never know, even if you don't hear from people, what you're putting out there, how it's being reacted to. And I can guarantee you, 99% of the time, if you're sending a birthday wish or thinking of you, they're going to react well. And if they're 1%, they don't react well, then they're weird. So those note cards. And if you prefer like jib jab, when I did the jib jab videos where I take a picture, cut out their face, and do the funny video, it was like $25 a year. So that's something that might get noticed and is really, really cheap.
You were highlighting Homekeeper last time, and I did some work. And I'm starting to expand my Homekeeper, and I want to add my vendors in there and actually have that, because that's a great resource too. That is, as far as I know, free to me.
Yeah.
To use.
Yeah, I think it's $10 a month if you don't get it free through your company. But not only is it a marketing tool for social media, for keeping in front of your clients if they sign up and accept the monthly email, it's also a really good way to service your clients. And it, rather than copying and pasting 3 different vendors to 3 different people who wanted, recommendations every week, or have outdated vendors on a PDF out there, you always keep it up to date, and it has everybody, so it's a point of leverage, a point of service, a point of marketing. And when you call your friends, your sphere, your clients, and ask for referrals, makes you look good, because they want, you're helping somebody build their business and you're servicing your client. So I can't speak highly enough about Homekeeper.
For me, the aha was I never thought of the closing gift as something they could remember you by. When I did my closing, I was gonna do Ring doorbell, so I feel like they would remember me by that. But I know a lot of people do like wine and stuff, and something like that could be going in a day. So that was an aha for me. Yeah, plus all of the someone had mentioned it earlier about having someone install the signs in the lock boxes.
Yeah.
So that was pretty handy.
All right. Well, I'm here if anybody has any questions, but I've said everything I came to say. So I want to wish you a happy rest of your Thursday and weekend to come. All right. Take care, everybody.